This video is brought to you by MW Industries. Beau Is Afraid opens at the very start of Beau's life. We watch his birth from his perspective. He leaves the womb silent as we hear his mother, Mona, screaming, terrified by the fact that Beau isn't. We watch the rest of the film also from Beau's perspective. Every moment of the film, we're with him. We see what he sees, hear what he hears, and know only what he knows. Until the end, where everything we've seen so far and more is presented to us from Mona's perspective. But let's hold it here for a minute. The film opens with Beau leaving his mother's womb, becoming, if only on a literal physical level, less dependent on her. We end on Beau entering this cave, clearly serving as a metaphor for the womb, a place where he is totally dependent on his mother. It is essentially her call whether he lives or dies. This is where Ari Aster signposts the key to this film, the part that will wash away any doubt and make almost everything clearer.
No, it's not. What do you understand?
Water here is used as part of a larger metaphor for his mother's womb, taking the role of womb juice. From here, we can make the connection that the film has been showing us this whole time, hidden in plain sight. Beau's relationship to water being a manifestation of his relationship to his mother. Now, it's important to remember that this is only one way of looking at the film and doesn't fully answer everything that Beau Is Afraid presents, because it's really impossible to in many ways, but it does open a lot of the film's meaning up and adds a really fresh way of looking at the film. So let's break down the first major instance of this beat for beat. Beau's therapist prescribes him some new medication that's meant to have no real side effects, but it always has to be taken with water.
Always with water.
On his walk home, we pass this moment that on a rewatch becomes extremely familiar.
Listen to your mother when I tell you to not leave my sight!
A scene or two later, as Beau is about to leave to visit his mother, his keys and bag are stolen from his door, resulting in him having to call his mum and tell her he's not going to make it. And even in just voice alone, Patti LuPone's performance here is nothing short of amazing, delivering the perfect emotional enigmaticness that caused his phone calls to be a huge source of anxiety for so many people.
No, of course it isn't. Your keys are stolen. That's terrible.
They were stolen.
We'll just do another visit another time. I can even come to you, so it's not such a pain.
After Beau has disappointed his mother and left her without him, he takes his new medication and goes to pour himself a glass of water. But nothing comes out. The building ran by Mona, and soon after, the credit card that Mona seems to control, both deprive Beau of the water he needs to live. Not long after, Beau discovers over the phone that his mother's head has been caved in by a chandelier and that she is dead, or at least that's what this guy says has happened, but I'm not sure I believe him.
I never would have gone inside if dogs in the street hadn't been going nuts and I hadn't smelled that smell and the door hadn't been half open.
He stands still and says nothing. He's paralyzed by fear. All he can think about is his mother, his grief for her, probably a longing to have her back. Water floods his apartment. Unconditional love is to love no matter what, but when Beau fails to please his mother, the water that he needs to live is taken away from him. When he longs for her in the way that she wants him to, the water forces itself to take over as much of the space as possible as it continues to pour, almost as if it's trying to reach and surround Beau himself, the same way Mona wishes to infect every single crevice of Beau's life. Water continues to play a similar role in the rest of the film.
Drink lots of water.
And for me, one of the most interesting uses of this is in the scenes with teenage Beau on holiday with his mother, where he meets Elaine.
There's a dead man in the pool!
Their holiday is on a cruise, surrounded by water as far as the eye can see. You can't see even a speck of land throughout this entire portion of the film, and there's something that feels just not quite right about it. There's this feeling of being trapped and surrounded at sea while being allowed this fake freedom so that Beau can feel free to explore without being able to venture past the confines of this boat. This flawlessly demonstrates how Mona truly believes she wants Beau to be happy, but that has to be on her terms. He has to be almost within her, and once again, dependent on her. Like a boat is nothing without the ocean, Beau must be nothing without his mother. This relationship with water is said pretty much explicitly in the film by Beau's therapist.
If the last time you were thirsty, you went to a well and the water made you sick, are you gonna go back to that specific well expecting it to be safe?
It isn't until we see the sequence with the travelling theatre company that we see how the water affects Beau properly contextualised. On a first watch, I thought this whole scene was mesmerising, hypnotic and incredibly creative, but ultimately served no real meaning other than to show an incredibly effective portrayal of dissociation, but acted as more of a red herring. But on a rewatch, it transcended that and became one of my favourite scenes I've ever seen on film. It begins with an actor who at this point is playing what to the audience is a figure that resembles Beau. He's an orphan mourning for his parents, explicitly saying that he is lost without them, much like the feeling of dependence Mona has forced into Beau. This man then visually becomes Beau as we embark on an incredibly shot dreamlike sequence where Beau realises that this forced and manipulated dedication to his emotionally abusive mother is holding him back, and finally, if only through imagination, breaks free from it. We follow him as he becomes independent and explores life on his own terms, making a living for himself, and is free of the external influence and controlling guidance his mother placed on him. He finds someone who he himself can love unconditionally and who unconditionally loves him. He starts his own family, one that seems loving and supporting. When he meets with his therapist, he will no longer discuss his mother and his relationship with her, but will share his feelings of pride. But Beau can never fully escape his fears. The narrator describes,
"An historic storm will sweep through your village and destroy your home."
As we see a massive wave of water separate Beau from his family. We now have to see this progressed version of Beau once again battle with his relationship to his mother. Except this version of Beau doesn't yield to her. He doesn't back down and assume it's his fault because his mother has instilled this perception of himself into him. He simply doesn't give up. Even after being convicted of a crime he's innocent of, he fights for what he believes is right and for his family who he has a true love for, one that Mona couldn't understand. Eventually, after searching for his family for years and years, thirsty and hungry, he finally becomes clear. He can reckon with himself, understand his true character, and face his flaws. The dangerous water that represents his mother is now replaced by healthy, clean water, which to me represents the clarity of mind you developed after realizing you've truly grown and developed as a person. He is now reunited with his sons once and for all, until a flaw in his logic, and a realization of what his mother instilled in him hits, and this ideal life, free of his mother, shatters. He comes straight back down to reality, and we, the audience, realise that the years of manipulation and, as we later discover, lies that Mona has been feeding him will forever plague Beau. No matter how much he thinks he's grown past it, no matter how free of it he may convince himself he is, it might just always be there. This moment here
What should I do? You have sacrificed nothing real.
Is, for me, the most gutting moment of Beau Is Afraid. This instills more fear than any jump scare ever could. This moment says, you cannot get over this. It's depressing and a huge gut punch, and while by no means a philosophy to live your life by, it's a perfect moment for this film. This is the horror movie moment for me, that shows you the film's elevator pitch of a man who constantly lives the worst case scenario, and makes you fall in love with it. We see water used in similarly effective ways constantly throughout the film, and I urge you to give the film a rewatch and take real notice of when, why, and how water is used, as it really presents a fresh perspective on the film and is so clearly intentionally weaved throughout it. If Ari Aster's 3 films so far have shown us anything, it's his Kubrick-esque nature to never leave something in there by accident. He pays such close attention to the mise-en-scène to craft these wonderful films that feel like chapters of a larger story, and in a way that is endlessly fascinating, and the various subtextual methods he deploys to do this is nothing short of spectacular. Returning to the ending, I want to close this video out on a moment that doesn't really have much to do with water specifically, but something that I absolutely love. The finale takes place in this huge dome filled with spectators on every angle, as we see Mona literally put Beau to trial, as revealed properly as Mona's true influence on Beau, and how she's not only been monitoring him, but influencing him and then judging him based on that. It's a perfect ending that recontextualizes the whole film, and seems to me like Ari Aster is spelling out clearly, but not overly heavy-handedly, who this character, being Mona, is. I mean, seriously, Joaquin Phoenix works his ass off putting in a career high performance for the entire film, and then Patti LuPone shows up and outdoes him within the span of like 20 minutes. It's something else. But what I want to focus on is this final moment. After Beau's guilt has been exposed, just like we see foreshadowed earlier, his boat capsizes and he drowns. The audience that have been watching on for this entire time one by one, start to head to the aisles and make their way out. The show is over. This is the final shot of Beau Is Afraid, and it lasts for almost 7 minutes as the entire credits play out over the top of it. And as this is happening, the audience of every cinema screening of this around the world do the exact same thing as the audience we're seeing on screen. It was a surreal realization I felt watching the people around me in the cinema doing the exact same thing and I was watching on screen, and it is an incredible piece of foresight from Ari Aster and his team. A closing credits that was as immersive as the rest of the film. Something that's not even just immersive, but making you complicit.
We like to blur the line between the audience and the players.
You struck me down.